welcome to Murder.
And everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two old friends that are going to talk about murder and everything else.
That's right. It is Sunday, and it is sunny.
It is.
I gotta tell you, I feel like we have officially begun summer out here on the eastern seaboard. And we had a really cool and slow start to our summer.
Yeah, and for us, it's only going to be, the high is only going to be 107 today.
Oh, shut up.
That's that's
That's
that's
crazy.
great. This coming Monday will be 110, and then Tuesday will be 112. So
Oh
it
my
only goes
God.
up from here. So 107 is breezy, breezy 107 in Arizona. Well, southern
What is
Arizona.
the hottest it's ever been?
I can't remember. You mean in history or since we've lived here? It's
Since you've
probably,
lived there, like, does it get into the triple digits?
well, these are triple digits,
Oh.
107. You mean like the
Oh,
hundred? So yeah, so it's going to be in the. I don't even know how you say it. 100 teens. So Monday will be
yeah.
110 and then 112. Yeah, I think it went up to 120 something since we've been here, but I'm sure the record is like 130 something. It's just freaking ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Jeez.
There's no place that should be
Jeez
this hot.
Louise.
Tell me about it.
Well,
Anyway,
let's cover some disclaimers. Quick reminder, this is not for kids.
that's right. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, listen. Tell all your
Yeah,
friends.
that's right. And you know what? We are on Instagram, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. So look us up. I don't believe we're on Apple Podcasts, though. So don't look us up over there. But anywho, you want to start us off with highs and lows?
Yes, I will. So my high was that I went to California last week. It was so amazing. I
Yay.
drove, which the high in that was that I was scared to drive 450 miles by myself, but our truck is fairly new. It's very new and it's, trustworthy. And so I took Callie and Jet, and it was just the original Three Musketeers, and I took them and drove, and it was
Aw.
great. And I rented a little Airbnb. So yeah, it was like a little adventure. I was, I love Thelma and Louise, so I played a song from that soundtrack, and I'm on the road going through the desert, feeling like I'm Thelma. And then I rented an Airbnb, so it was like a little guest house, if you want to call it that, maybe a in-laws suite, so it's connected to the main house, but it has its own entrance, it has its own yard, has just a little kitchenette, separate bathroom and bedroom. Anyway, but on the ride, remember, Joy, I was talking to you, and I'm like, this is probably crazy. I'm making this drive all by myself, which I would probably tell the listeners, don't do that. And I was doing it. And then I rented an Airbnb from a complete stranger. And I would probably tell people, don't do that. And I was doing that. I've rented a lot of Airbnbs, but with at least one other person. Usually there's, three of us. My sister and her friend used to come all the time, but not by myself. So I had all these, I had all these concerns about it. And I get there and the place is really cute. Yeah. I mean, I have to tell people about my first night there, since I was telling you that I'm probably going to be murdered. Well, I put my location services on, which I had never done before, so that Kevin could track me in case I fell off the face of the earth. And then, you guys would have a data like footprint of where I was last, seen. And, oh, and let's not talk about the rest stops. Holy cow. those are scary, these rest stops. And of course I had to stop because I have to go to the bathroom. I can't make it 6, 7 hours without stopping. And the
Wait, so
babies.
let me ask you this really quickly. When you stop at the rest stop to go to the bathroom, do you
Mhm.
just leave the do you just leave your dogs in the truck?
No, most of the time I bring them in, and the signs on the bathrooms, they have a picture, if it's the men's or the women's bathroom, and then they have a a diagram or a picture of a person holding a leash and a dog, and then there's a big circle, and then a X through it, an arrow, a line through it, like no pets. And I'm like, I'm not. It's too hot to leave them in there. So a lot of people
Yeah.
didn't um, abide by that. I mean, what's
Well,
the
and
big
you
deal
have
taking your
small
pet? And
dogs.
yeah, I guess if it was, I saw a lady with a big dog coming out. It's like nobody's going to say anything to anybody, and if anybody did, I'd say it's too hot to leave them. But there was a stop where they were both sleeping. And I had to go to the bathroom really bad. So I left it running, locked the door, and just kept the air on and ran in and, came out. But if they're up, they're,
You could be like the astronauts and wear diapers.
yeah. Well, I actually did, truth be told, but only if I was going to have an accident, but I did not have to use it. So
Oh.
anyway, yeah, so I survived the rest stops. Anyway, I get to the Airbnb and it's super cute, and I unpack everything because this is my singles week. I was there for 6 nights and 7 days or something like that. Or five,
Wow.
yeah. So I unpacked everything, Joy, as soon as I got there. No matter, I was really tired from driving that far. It took 6.5 hours, 7 hours. I unpack everything. I make it like I'm gonna live there for the next week, right? Okay,
Mhm.
so, but of course, lingering in the back of my head is that this is an Airbnb, and they, it has a keypad for the door, and who knows who has that, who has the the password and all this stuff. Also, I've watched movies where people have rented Airbnbs, and then there's people lurking in the cellar or the the attic or whatever.
Barbarian.
Yeah,
Barbarian.
yeah. And I love those movies. I just don't want to be in one. So it's time to go to bed. So I've got Callie and Jet in the bedroom, and I'm all settled in, and all the lights are off, and I want to watch my iPad before I go to bed. So the only light is emanating from my iPad, and I'm lying down with the iPad facing me, and the bed is situated such that I can't see down. I can't see the door. I can't see down the door. You know what I mean? Like I'm um I'm not right in front of the door. So I'm lying there and it's pitch black except for the light illuminating from my iPad. And I hear the tick, and the light goes on in the hallway.
Mhm.
So now the bed, and I didn't shut the bedroom door. Normally you would, but for some reason I felt like I would want to hear if someone came in. I don't know. I don't know what that theory was about, but it didn't have a lock on it. If it had a lock, I would have locked it. I would have shut the door and locked it, but I kept it open, and the hall light goes on. And of course I'm like, someone's in here. How else is the light going to go on? And I heard the click of the switch. I heard the switch. And I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm
Oh
dead.
my
And it's
god.
like all these thoughts are running through your head. I even thought of my conversation with you. I'm like, here I was joking with Joy, but this is it. This is how my life ends. Somebody's in the
But did
unit.
your heart like jump into your
Oh my God.
throat?
Yeah. I jumped out, I got out of bed, and I'm like,
Did the dogs like startle?
oh, they were sleeping. They were just snoring away because
Oh my god.
there was no sound. I mean, it was just that little tick. I heard that, it was literally like tick, and the light came on. So they didn't hear anything. And so I'm standing there waiting for somebody to come in that door. And I'm
With a
standing there
curling iron? Did you have like a weapon or
like,
something?
well, I'm like, what do I have? Well, I have a scissors in the backpack that I carry. It's my
There
backpack
you
is like my
go.
diaper bag for the babies. I go in there, and the scissors is like a 3-inch toddler scissors that you give them to cut like construction paper. It's rounded on the end. The handle is pink,
Nice.
and I'm like, This is all I have. So I grab it and I stab the end in my hand like, well, I'm just kind of thinking if I stab hard enough, maybe it'll put some kind of dent in them because it's rounded, right? And then I grab
Blunt
my cell
blunt
phone.
force trauma.
Yeah, blunt force trauma. Give him a really good bruise.
Yeah.
So I have my phone and I'm like, should I call 911? I'm it's awful. Like I'm thinking I am going to die. And then I thought, okay, I need to go out and look. And then I'm thinking, no, I'm gonna let them have to come in and I'm gonna defend myself in this room. And then nothing was happening. So I tiptoe out and like you're ripping off a band-aid, I move my, I look in the hallway and there's nobody there. So I walk in the little hallway and I look into the kitchen living where that's where the French doors were to go outside. Nobody there. So I
Wow.
go in the bathroom and now I'm just like, okay, well, it's not someone. So the place must be haunted. Because, now I've
Oh.
watched all these
Oh,
paranormal movies.
that makes you feel so much better,
Yeah,
right?
I like the toss up is it's a rapist or a ghost. So then
Oh god.
I don't know what to do. I'm like, I guess
It's a
I could
ghost
back
that's
up.
a rapist.
Exactly. But I'm sitting on the bed going, I guess I have to go to a hotel. But Joy, I have unpacked everything like I'm moving in. All my toiletries were in the drawers. All my clothes were in the drawers. I mean, I had moved in and I had just
You
driven
put
seven
your
hours.
clothes in the drawers?
Yeah, the dresses are really nice. Anyway, but I did bring my own pillow. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I cannot. I don't have I just don't have it in me. I'm just gonna have to live with this ghost. So I text oh, I thought she was the owner. I think she's just managing it. I said, hey,
Yeah.
the hall light just came on by itself. Is that normal? And then it was 10:30 and I figure she's not going to see it tonight. So, well,
Right.
I'm going to have a sleepless night. So I start looking at my iPad and then I hear the vibration the notification. So she goes, "Oh, I apologize. The wiring, the electrician made a mistake and the wiring for that hall light is connected to the main house."
Oh.
Like, you gotta
Oh
be
god.
kidding me. And
So
I
it's
said,
gonna go on and off all the time.
well, I was relieved. I said, oh, thank goodness. I said, because it went on and I'm thinking if it's, and when no one was in here, I'm thinking it's a ghost. And then she replied, there's no ghost, I promise. But I'm like, you need to mention that to anybody that rents the place, because then the next day, it would go on and then I'd naturally go and turn it off because my mom, when we were little, she drilled it into us that if you're not in that room, there should
Right?
not be a light on. So it would go on, I would shut it off, it would go on, and then I stopped and I went, oh shit, I'm turning it off on the person in the main house.
Right, right.
So all I need to hear is like somebody falling from a ladder in the attic or
Oh my
something.
god.
Turn the light on. Anywho, it was quite comical after
That's
everything was okay.
funny.
But I'm still contemplating whether I should write a review and put it in there or say to her. I just didn't say anything. I just, enjoyed my time there. But I really want to say to her, you really need to let your guests know because that was frightening.
Yeah. And how was the bed? Because I have to say that I have had a lot of garbage bed Airbnb stories.
Yep.
More garbage bed stories. Like we have stayed at some of the most adorable places in Montreal, we stayed at one in New Jersey, we've stayed at the beach, we've stayed in Florida, we've stayed all over the United States. But and in other countries. But I will say that the beds are the reoccurring theme of misery. It's like all the all the effort and energy to make this place livable for a family that is traveling or that doesn't live there and they're paying all these fees and then you sleep on this like saggy lumpy garbage bed. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a pull-out couch in the little kitchen living area, and it does say in the Airbnb listing that that couch is, I mean, it's fine to sit on, but if you're going to use it as a bed, it's only for a child.
Yeah,
Um,
that's crazy because I gotta tell you, girl, there was one we stayed at in near Washington, D.C. that was literally in a home that was built in like the 1700s, and they have pictures on the wall of the original home, and like somebody's cooking at the hearth, and apparently it was a wealthy family, blah 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 blah, and it was the bottom part of the house. And
that picture would frighten me. I would be like,
yeah,
that's
and they
too
had
close.
even like newspaper clippings of like
Oh
this
no.
family that had taken over the house and renovated it, and who owned it, and it had burned down at one point and they rebuilt it and blah blah blah. I'm not kidding you. The bed, I don't know if they were going for like a real homey 1800, 1700 feel, but it was like the underneath the mattress, it was like one of those metal accordion things where it was like, "Meow," and then every
Oh,
time one of us would roll over, we'd roll into each other because it went down in the middle, and then it was like, "Meow, eeyor, eeyor." I mean, it was like you just roll over in bed and you sound like you're playing with a slinky, a metal slinky.
oh my
And
God.
I thought we had brought an air mattress for the girls to sleep on, and I just kept thinking, maybe
You're gonna
I'll go
steal it.
push. No, yeah, go push the girls and be like, "Hey, girls, now tonight you get to sleep in the master,
And make
and
it
we're gonna
sound like
sleep
it's
on the, and we're gonna sleep on the."
a good thing.
And and the thing is, the master was so cute. It had a fireplace. It was big. There was this one single bed kind of against the wall, which was kind of creepy. And then also, I had this whole Martha Washington like dream at night
Oh my
where I was like,
God.
yeah, yeah, I was like,
That
what's
place sounds
happening?
haunted.
Like,
Oh my God.
oh, I totally thought of you. I was
Yeah.
like, because I would have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom, and I'd be like, I don't want it to be, I don't want to go around the corner and run smack into George Washington and be like, what are you
A
doing
headless,
here?
a headless church Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it was really good. It was really fun to go visit all my friends there, and I went took
Aw.
the county jet to the beach, and I just drove by all my old, um, not stomping grounds, but where places I lived and places I worked, and anyway,
It's
it
nice.
was really
Sometimes
great.
you have to go home, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really good. Okay, what about yours? Highs and lows.
So, my high is that I also went on a trip with my husband. We went to Miami Beach for our 20th anniversary. It was,
Congratulations! Amazing.
yeah, it was so relaxing. We stayed at a super bougie resort. It was really nice because we are not super bougie people. And it was it was kind of posh, you know? I mean, but the cool thing was we had like wild iguanas wandering around underneath our deck chairs while we were sitting out by the pool. So that was kind of fun because some of the iguanas were pretty good size. And nothing gets my husband more excited than wildlife, animals wandering around on the
Reptiles.
wild, reptiles, you know. And of course no one else was that excited about them. One woman was screamed and jumped up like, ah, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that iguana is terrified of you, but whatever.
Right.
We threw a piece of pineapple at it, but it didn't really, it licked it, but then it kept moving. So I don't think it really likes pineapple. But um we saw other iguanas when we went to lunch. You know, they would have all these cool like canopies above because it's very, very hot and very humid. So you have to have shade when you're eating outside or whatever. And there was a bunch of like iguanas chasing each other around on top of the canopy. So that was kind of cool because you could see the outline of them while you're sitting there eating your lunch. but it was just really nice. And we didn't take the children and we didn't take the animals. We took an airplane. So we were like gone, gone. And, we have um, an adult child. So that adult child held the fort down for us with the almost an adult child. And that's a weird thing now,
Yeah.
we're like
Was that the
in
first
a
time?
that was the second time. Last summer, we had to like go out to California very suddenly because my mom passed away. That was the first time that
Mm.
we had left the girls at home. And because I was so preoccupied with other things, I wasn't as concerned about them being here, but it's funny, I realized that it's going to take me a little while to get used to leaving them here and going away. So the good news is we'll probably do that more often just to see what
Hmm.
kind of shenanigans we can get up to, but also it's good for the girls to have that kind of independence, and it's good for us to go do stuff because pretty soon they're both going to be gone to college, and then we'll be like all the other empty nesters out there, and we'll just be batting around this big old house waiting for them to roll in for Thanksgiving or Christmas or spring break. And that's depressing. But anyway, um so my low is that I took Bruno back to the vet for follow-up because, I talked about previously he had a horrible ear infection.
Hmm.
And uh last weekend I got together and played on Sunday with my friend Debbie, play violin. And in the past, Bruno would stand and just howl like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr."
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, and sometimes you can't hear what you're playing because he's howling so loud. Well, he didn't howl at all on Sunday. And so
Oh,
I went to the vet and I was like, yay, he's all better. He didn't howl at all. He must have been nursing this ear infection for a long time because he's been doing it for so long, only to find out that his ear infection is worse than ever.
that
And
sucks.
her excuse, or her reason, not excuse, but reason for him not howling was she said maybe his hearing is starting to go in that ear because of this awful infection. So he's back on antibiotics for 12 weeks. He's getting a steroid treatment that flushes out his ears, I think weekly, and then my husband has to clean his ears. Also, he's gotten wise to the pills that he's taking. So we've had to get really, really creative. Now we've got wet cat food. I mean, it's amazing because, pilling a large dog, you basically have to shove the pill down their throat, hold their mouth closed.
Hmm.
And, I mean, I don't know if you've seen a German Shepherd's mouth, but like he got a lot of sharp teeth. Not that
Yeah.
he would ever bite, but, it's not comfortable to have some dude with, Gabe's got huge hands shoving his finger down your throat with a big pill. So anyway,
Hmm.
so I will take him back halfway through his 12 weeks of antibiotics and we'll do some more labs and see what's going on. But in the meantime, shout out to Dr. McKeon at the Pittsburgh Animal Hospital. She
Who's
is
not Joyce's husband?
not, yeah, she is not related, but we got the same name. And guess what? She is taking care of our little,
Oh, it's a
well, not
female. I
our
forgot that.
not so little dog who has
Mm.
a bad ear. And there her recommendation was that sometimes when dogs have chronic ear infections like this, they do remove the ear canal or something, but that affects their hearing significantly.
Of
So
course.
I'm hoping that we can solve the ear problem without a surgery because, I mean, I mean, it's funny, dogs have such keen hearing and sense of smell. I can't imagine taking part of that away from a dog.
Well, yeah, I know because Kelly and Jet are losing their hearing, and Jet's also losing his sight. It's
Oh,
very sad. But Bruno's only 5, and they're
yeah.
they're 14, so it's kind of
Oh,
expected. But
they're
yeah,
like
well, I hope he's okay.
120 years old.
I don't know who came up with that though. How do
I
we
don't
know these
either.
things? How do we
I
know
don't
they're
either.
colorblind? Didn't they? Someone
But
say they're color? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Who knows? I do know this that they have very keen senses of smell and, like eyesight and hearing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
razor,
You've,
razor keen. It's
yeah.
amazing. So we have some shout outs and updates. I guess it's more like an update and less of a shout out. But this is going back to my favorite, which is data analytics. You know, Spotify provides us with data analytics on our podcast. And guys, we are almost to 1,000 plays of our podcast. And that is very exciting.
That
So
is total.
we are at 940 plays. And also, we are now being listened to in 6 countries instead of 5. I had previously mentioned that obviously we're being listened to in the United States, Ireland, Canada, Philippines, and India. We can add the United Kingdom to that list, which,
Awesome.
I mean, can we be any more international? I don't think so. And
We could.
so that is very, very, very exciting. And also, the last thing that I wanted to just mention is our very first episode, our pilot episode, number one, which is called Idaho Murders Affidavit, and it was released on January 10th of this year, has been listened to 100 times. So that is super,
Awesome.
super cool. So, for those of you who are subscribed or even our silent subscribers who don't subscribe but listen, thank you so much for listening to us, for subscribing, for following, for putting in the time and listening to all this great content that Cheryl and I work hard to bring to you because it is really, really, really validating to see that we have so many people who have listened to us just
Yeah.
yammer about all kinds of stupid shit, but still listen. And on that note, I just wanted to kind of set up today, let you guys know that we are also taking a little detour of a murder. And we are both Cheryl and I watched um kind of a reality TV documentary, wouldn't you call it that?
Yeah. Hmm.
On Netflix. And we both enjoyed it. Cheryl actually mentioned it several episodes ago, and then I went and watched it. And we decided we're going to do a little review and just kind of chime in on it. And maybe some of you will head over to Netflix and actually watch this. So
Yeah.
Cheryl's put together documentation and I'm going to do my very, very
Oh.
best to just chime in whenever I feel like I'm needed. But she's going to kind of
Or she has, or you have
run
something
through
to
the meat
say.
and yeah, she's going to run through the meat and potatoes. I'm going to provide the gravy, salt and pepper.
That's right. Okay, so this documentary is called Longest Third Date. It's like Joy said, it's a Netflix documentary. And I had watched it, so Joy watched it, and I want to hear what she has to say about it. If you have not watched this and you want to, and you don't want any spoilers, then you might not want to listen to it. You could listen to some of it, but don't listen all the way to the end. Sorry, Dave. Um, so the players in this are Connie and Matt, and they are filmed on a couch, but they're not sitting together. So whenever they talk to Matt, he's on one end of the couch, and whenever they talk to Connie, she's on the other. I just wanted you guys to get that mental image. Matt Robertson, 34, and Connie Lee, 32, met on the dating app Hinge. Just so you have a mental image, it's not for any other reason than that Matt is Caucasian and Connie is Asian. So their profiles. Matt found Connie's profile fun. Connie says she couldn't get a good read on Matt from his profile. She was looking for someone to have fun with and felt that Matt was looking for a life partner. So she wasn't quite sure, but they were eventually matched on Hinged. And I don't know how that works. On Hinge, not Hinged. Unhinged. I'm going to create an app that
Unhinged.
says, I'm going to create an app that's called Unhinged.
Oh
And
my God.
Hinged can hook up and create unhinged babies. Okay, I don't know how that works, Joy. Do you want to interject with how this
Well,
works? That they were eventually matched, is what it said on the document.
I I have never dated on an app called Hinge, but I did use a dating app before I met my husband called Match. And what you do is you you build a profile and answer some questions, and so it matches you with people who the algorithm says that, believes the algorithm pairs you with people with similar interests, that you're looking for, X instead of Y. And I imagine Hinge is probably this a similar type of situation.
Yeah. Okay, well, it says they were eventually matched. So they go on their first date and they have Indian food, which I think is that's kind of risky. Um, Matt was taking pictures of their food and drink, and their first date was effortless, talking about travel and family, and they clicked. Matt ends their date kissing Connie on the cheek, and she's disappointed and she texts him telling she was expecting more than a kiss on the cheek. Matt finds her assertiveness attractive, so they go on to the second date. On their second date, Matt brings one of his good friends along. His name is Mike, and Mike is Asian. Mike jokingly says Matt brought him along because having an Asian friend would impress her, which is kind of funny, but I think there's kind of some truth to that, don't you think? I mean, I don't know. I thought it was funny, but I think there's some truth to that. I don't know. Things are going in the right direction, and Matt finally kisses her. So, third date. Connie says it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. Matt suggests they take a trip somewhere. They decide to go to Costa Rica. When she tells her friends, they respond that she's going to get murdered, asking if she is crazy, telling her the world is about to shut down. One of her friends tells her to turn her location on so she could be tracked on her trip, which is exactly what I did when I went to California. Mike
Yeah,
tells
and
Matt,
I have to just interject that they knew. I mean, the date was like what, March 17th? That's it's so it's so impulsive. Let
well,
me
it
just leave it
was
at that.
yeah, so February, March. So March, yeah, March was 19th or 20th, right? Something where everything shuts down. Oh, or maybe I'll say it in here. Well, anyway, so Mike tells Matt not to go on a trip for not to go on a trip for a date, which is maybe good advice. I don't know if I would do it.
Yeah.
Would you? You've done
Yeah,
some crazy
when I
things.
was single, I totally would have done this.
Well, I don't think I would have. Third date, go on a trip
And
out
I wouldn't
of the
have been so
country.
intimidated because also, in Costa Rica they speak Spanish. Now, if the guy had said let's go to Indonesia, I might have been less willing because I don't speak whatever they speak in Indonesia,
Mhm.
you
But what if
know?
he says, I do, I'll take care of you?
Well, I guess it depends on how much I like him.
How hot he is. Okay.
Right.
That's what she means, everyone. All right. So uh so his friend asks him if he's seen the news about the coronavirus and tells him don't go. Matt's dismissive about the pandemic being something to worry about. So Tuesday, February 17, 2020 is their departure date. And Matt
Thought it was
vlogs in.
March.
Nope. That's what I got
Oh.
from the. Yeah, because while they're there, then the quarantine happens.
Oh,
So
okay.
they leave on February 17, and then Matt vlogs and films everything. The airport is empty. The flight is empty. They are one of very few passengers. Connie doesn't tell her work that she's leaving the country because she can just like log on from anywhere and do it, so they don't need to know. And also because the trip was supposed to be only for 4 days, she tells her mom that she's leaving, but she doesn't tell her dad. The
Yeah, and I
first,
gotta say, like, that is kind of risky in itself. I don't know if the parents are together or separate, but if one of my kids told me, "Don't tell dad, but I left the country with a strange man," I'd be like, your daughter just left the country with a strange man. I'm sorry, but the fact that she's telling her mom one thing and she's like not telling her dad, it's like, Don't you think your mom's gonna tell your dad?
Yeah, well, she doesn't, and her parents are together. They show them in the documentary. So I don't
That's
know. She tells her,
weird.
well, she does have friends that know. So it's not like she's leaving without telling anyone. I mean, people do have, I think one of her friends is going to track her, just like I had Kevin track me. So the first night brings up the awkwardness of having to sleep in the same bed, which, you know what, that was kind of like, really? You didn't know that you were going to have to sleep in the same bed, you're in the same room. I thought that was kind of, a little bit of a farce. But anyway, hardly knowing each other brings up a lot of awkward moments. Matt's filming makes Connie feel uncomfortable and annoyed, and she tells Matt how much she hates influencers. Matt's handle is Movie Matt, and Connie says if she had known that, she wouldn't have gone out with him. But they slowly begin to feel more comfortable with each other. Connie says in her past relationships, she had to downplay how successful or ambitious she was, so the guy wasn't intimidated. She was done taking care of guys and wanted to be herself. Matt saw
That
serious
made me
relationships.
so sad when she said that. Guys, like that she couldn't be open about making more money than a guy, that they felt intimidated or threatened if she was like, had a better career than the guy. That made me so sad. I just need
Hmm.
to say right here, sir, public service announcement. Dudes, if you are threatened because you're in a relationship with a woman who makes more money than you or has a better career, then grow up. Oh my God. I can't even
The end.
grow up, grow some balls, man up. Like, literally, man up. Because guess what? It's okay for a chick to have better paying job or better career. Okay, Cheryl, sorry. You can go ahead now.
No, no, this is the whole thing, is to get your input on this, because I
I
had
just
already
can't
seen it.
I couldn't even with that statement. I was just like, "Ugh." I was like, "Are you serious?"
But don't you think though she could have, well, now I'm gonna like really try to get into like my psychotherapy coat, put on my psychotherapist coat. Don't you think she could have gone after men that were more successful than her? Do you think that maybe something in her, there was a little bit of insecurity that she didn't want the guy to be more successful? Oh, look at me getting deep.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think she wasn't in a place where she wanted to commit to a serious relationship. She made it very obvious. And at the beginning of this, I felt kind of like she was talking out both sides of her mouth, or
Yes,
in
that's
the
exactly what I'm
way
saying.
the way I actually like to reference that is talking out of both sides of her ass, which
Hmm.
means she's like, on one hand, she's like, I can't believe you didn't kiss me. I wanted you to kiss me. But oh no, I'm going to have to share a bed with you. It was like,
That's
okay.
what I mean.
But what I realized as I watched this more and more, and then watched it a second time for this podcast, was that she is just very insecure and not comfortable with being vulnerable. And because of her past relationships and the kind of guys she dated, she didn't enter relationships with the idea like maybe this is going to be like not necessarily looking for substantive people. It was
Yeah,
more like, let's have fun,
exactly.
let's live for the moment, but I'm not going to put a lot of time and energy into this because it's probably not going to go anywhere. And those were the kinds of people she was ending up
Yeah,
with.
yeah,
So, yeah, so I definitely recognize that she had a lot of maturing to do.
yeah.
And this pandemic obviously helped her do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I see it. Yeah. And then Matt saw serious relationships as something he would do later. He would normally
Right.
meet people at work. He worked in spirits and nightlife. So most of the women he met at bars, clubs, industry events. So, all right. So day 4, this is when they're supposed to go home. Their flight home is canceled, and they have no idea at this point when their flight home will be. Breaking news, the world is shutting down. No flights in and out. The beach is shut down. They are quarantined to their rental. Connie's mom is a nurse and was assigned to help treat the COVID patients. Connie is worried about her mom being a frontline worker. She's also feeling guilty about not telling her dad where she was. Her father was always the stricter parent. She finally tells her dad she's in Costa Rica, but tells him she's there with a group of friends. Her dad is actually relieved she's not in New York City during the pandemic. So now it's,
So I
yeah, go
also
ahead.
have to jump in here because I found the lying to her parents so familiar because I used to do the exact same thing. I used to buy tickets to other countries, go to the other countries, and then I it wasn't until I was in my early 30s, actually the exact same age as Connie, where when I found an internet cafe and emailed my mom and said, "Oh, I'm in Peru. Uh, I came to see Machu Picchu with a friend from college." Just being very vague so that she would think
Mm-hmm.
it was a girlfriend from college, not a guy friend, and also not to worry. But of course, that made her worry more because she's like, "Well, you didn't even tell me you were leaving the country.
Yeah, I
And you've
know.
never been there before, and we don't know anyone down there. And how long are you going to be there?" And so but before internet cafes and email, I just didn't bother telling her. I would just leave the country. I'd be like, what's the worst that could happen? I have my name tattooed on my body. If I wash up on a beach somewhere, they'll find me and track down my family. So I thought that was so funny that she did that because I used to do
You
that
did that
all the
too.
time.
Well, what do you think would happen if you told your parents before you went? You still would have done it, right? No matter what they said.
Well, I would have, but much like her, she knew her dad would be disappointed or be cautionary. She knew he would tell her, the reasonable things like you shouldn't do that. You don't know that person. Where are you going? It's expensive. My mom would have said all those things. And
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to hear it. I
Because you
wanted
knew you were going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and then so it just became easier to lie and say I'm gonna stay home, and then I'd leave.
Yeah. So she actually, yeah, exactly. And so Connie actually, this pandemic is actually on her side, right? Because her dad is relieved that he finds out she's in Costa Rica. She didn't tell him, but now she,
Right.
finally tells him, "Hey, I'm in Costa Rica." And instead of being upset, he's actually relieved because New York City was one of the major, you know,
Right.
yeah. So that worked in her favor, I guess. So now it's day 11. The hotel they are staying at is shutting down. They finally booked a flight home, but it doesn't leave for 3 weeks. So they check out of their hotel and rent an Airbnb in Montezuma. They find ways to pass the time, online cooking classes, exercise classes, etc. And then at some point, Connie's birth control runs out. She finds a pharmacy and asks if they have something similar to what she's taking. So she takes her pill pack and she shows it to the guy. She Googles what they give her for. She Googles it and finds that this particular brand is not trustworthy. It has been sold on the black market and the efficacy is questionable. Do you have anything to say about that?
You know what? The birth control situation was the first time when I started to shift and actually start to like her like her as her personality in this whole situation because it made her vulnerable and it made her um seem so much more likable because that vulnerability showed a side of her that she wasn't willing to show previously.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like that. And also, I mean, I I mean, when you're a single person and you're dating, you got to make sure your birth control is working. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. Nobody wants to go on a vacation with their
Come
third
back.
date from Hinge and come back and, all of a sudden you're going to be a baby mama.
Yeah.
So,
That must have been
but
I
it did expose her vulnerable side. And I feel like the way they filmed it and how she portrayed that vulnerability, it was really to the documentary's credit and also to her character's credit because, it allowed women to really connect with what she was experiencing.
Yeah, and I would just find I would just be I would be sort of terrified to be in a foreign country and have to go to the pharmacy. It would be so foreign, no pun intended, but
Oh, I had
I
the
would just be
best
so, I would
girl.
be
I
so
had the
scared.
best story.
Foreign
And if
pharmacy
we
story.
if we have time at the end of this podcast, I'm going to tell that story.
Oh, it doesn't have to do with if it has to do with the pharmacy, tell it now.
Oh, okay. So I'm 18 years old. I don't speak any more than maybe like, hola, me llamo Joy. I've been in Spain for about 6 to 8 weeks and I run out of sanitary supplies. So I go to the little, like, it's not a pharmacy per se, but they sell everything: gum, chips, paper, pencils, and sanitary supplies. But everything's behind the counter. So you go and tell the lady who works at the counter what you want, and she puts it in a bag and she charges, she rings you up and she hands it to you. And it's during break. So all of the kids in the high school are standing around the door, milling around, buying snacks, chips, whatever. And I walk in and I stand there and I'm looking through my dictionary and I realize I don't know how to say sanitary supplies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've looked up the word for pad, but I know it's a pad of paper and I don't need a pad of paper. And
Tampon?
so I didn't I wanted pads
Okay.
and
And you couldn't really
so
act it
I'm
out.
yeah, so I'm standing there and now the kids are staring at me because they're like, "Oh, American girl in the grocery, what does she want?" And the lady looks at me and she goes, "¿Qué quieres, bonita?" Which is like, "What do you want, pretty girl?" or whatever. And I'm like, and I point to my crotch and I go, and I say sangre, which means blood.
Oh,
And the sales lady, the little lady behind the counter goes, "Oh." And the high school kids standing around the door go, "Ah," and they all start screaming with laughter. And they're all, "She said," and I'm sure, I don't know what they're saying because I don't speak Spanish, but I'm sure they're saying she's got blood in her crotch. And they are falling over themselves, laughing hysterically. My face is bright red, bright red. I'm holding my dictionary like some like kind of moron. But she reaches up on the counter behind her. She like moves a box and she pulls out some pads, sticks it in a brown bag, and hands it to me. And I hand her my money. I probably would have started crying at this point. But as I hand her my money, she takes my hand and she holds it for a brief moment. Remember, I'd never been away from home before. I'm 18. She holds my hand and she squeezes it and she says it's okay. And
Aw.
then
Did you
she
start?
takes a pen and she writes on a little piece of paper in my dictionary. So it was like somewhere in the front of the dictionary. She writes the word compresas so that the next time I went in the store, I would know to ask her for compresas. I'll
Oh,
never, ever, ever forget that story.
of
It
course
was
not.
mortifying,
Of
but
course, that is traumatizing.
it was so good to like,
Uh,
I mean, sink or swim, right?
yeah. I mean,
Oh
actually,
my
you
God.
were you were quick on your feet. You're like, what's the fastest way I can get her to understand what I need? And I think blood and pointing to your crotch was
Yeah.
very was very succinct. I think
Oh
that
my God.
she got it. They all got it. They all knew what you were talking about. So you did
Everyone, and
good.
anytime I would walk past those high school kids that were there, somebody would inevitably point at me as I walking by and go, point to their crotch and go, sangre, ha, and they'd
Oh,
all start laughing. And I
that's
just be
yeah.
like, how do I say fuck you in
Yeah.
Spanish?
I'm surprised you didn't know how to say that. How do you say that? Uh,
So we'll do that on another podcast.
Okay. Oh my God. Well, yeah, that's unforgettable. That's something you're going to
Right.
remember the rest of your life. Okay. So now it's day 29. It's 3 days until departure. Matt calls the airline and says he does not see their flight on his app. Now the rep says it has been postponed until June 2nd. Now they have 48 days till departure. Oh my
Mhm.
God. I mean, how would you feel? I would be like, I don't
Well,
know.
I do have to say, they stayed in some really great
Oh,
places.
they did.
That place in
Yes.
Montezuma was gorgeous. The place they stayed in San Jose was gorgeous. I mean, they had a swimming pool. You know, I will say they were staying in, like, it looked like Hawaii mixed with, I don't know, Mexico mixed with the Maldives. I mean, it was gorgeous.
It
So,
was. If they were going to have to be trapped, it wasn't like they were in a tent on the beach or something.
right.
They were in some gorgeous Airbnbs. So for
Right. And
me, I
they
don't know, maybe
had
it'd be an adventure, which
they had jobs. They had
Mhm.
a revenue stream. They could afford to go to the store and get groceries. I mean, again, this worked because first world problems, right? Like, if
Exactly.
this was a story about two immigrants walking from Guatemala to San Diego, the story would be completely different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's why it's a Netflix documentary because
Right.
visually it was so beautiful. Yeah, they had money and they were staying in gorgeous places. So
Right.
yeah, and they were both working from where they were. So you're right, but that's a long time. I mean, that is a long time. So. And by now, Connie has begun to appreciate Matt's take charge personality because in the past she has had to be the one in charge. They pass the time taking road trips all over Costa Rica, camping, sightseeing, whatever they can find to entertain themselves. And now it's day 45, 26 days until departure. Connie misses her period. Having been very regular in the past, she is concerned. She Googles ways to make her period come faster, and she and Matt have to contemplate the possibility of a pregnancy. Yikes. Matt's grandfather is in an assisted living facility where there has been a case of coronavirus. Connie's father still believes she is with a group of friends. Matt speaks with one of Connie's friends, wanting to get to know Connie better. And Matt and Connie frequently FaceTime with Matt's friend Mike. Mike's starting to have feelings about Connie. He feels she's holding her feelings back. Connie is not going to be the first one to bring up what will happen when they get back to New York City, but it's on her mind. And then she finally gets her period. Matt
I
introduces. Go
I
ahead.
just have to say that around this time is when he plans that date on, like, that kind of, like, haunted,
Shipwrecked it.
abandoned ship,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I have to say, if he I mean, he did all the right things, because even though she was stressed out about her period not coming, and even though she's having to deal with things like find birth control in a developing country or whatever, it's not developing, it's very nice in Costa Rica, but, in a country that's not a home country. And um he is going the extra distance to be romantic, to try to do things that they wouldn't normally do, and she's really appreciating that, because remember, it's just the two of them. It's not like they can go to the neighbors and be like, "Hey, you want to get together for dinner?" I mean, they're basically two tourists just stranded, no
Hmm.
flights in, no flights out. So he's really going out of his way to, like, let's go have a romantic dinner on that shipwreck out there. Like,
Yeah.
how cool is that? You have
That
to
was
find
very cool.
somebody who can take you out on a boat, and then they're jumping off the ship into the ocean. I mean, it just seemed really cool that he would do something like that. And I think, you know, she got a chance to realize that even in these circumstances, he's still going, he's still making an effort to woo her.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it just seemed like so much fun. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
there were times where they were probably just wanting to be away from each other and back home, but I don't know. It looked like a great adventure to me. um,
Yeah.
So finally, Matt introduces Connie through his vlog. She playfully grabs his camera and films herself. I thought this was really cute. She films herself saying, "Help,
Yeah.
help," before he falls in love with me. And then he grabs the camera back. So now Matt posts the vlog and he titles it Longest Third Date with Connie. They get tattoos to commemorate the time they've spent together. They get tattoos of the word Pura Vida, which means pure life. Connie has it tattooed. She has the word Pura Vida tattooed on her left rib cage, and Matt gets it on his inner forearm. And he adds a huge iguana in honor of the iguana that has come to live with them that they named Spike. So now, day 58, 11 days until departure. The post on Matt's vlog about his longest third date with Connie is getting a lot of views. One of the viewers asks Matt if she can share it. So she shares it, and the video receives so much interest that People magazine calls them for an interview. After that, it was one interview after another. In one of the interviews, they are asked if they are boyfriend and girlfriend. Matt says yes, to Connie's surprise. Connie is not thrilled that their situation is no longer private. She realizes everyone is now going to find out, so she calls her boss to warn them that information will be coming out that she has actually been in Costa Rica. But her company thinks it's funny. And but now she has to deal with her dad. Connie is not comfortable with her newfound celebrity. Her sisters accidentally mentioned the People magazine article in a group chat that her father is on. How would you feel about that?
I thought
How
that was
about the
interesting.
about
But
you now it's
I
all vlogged all over the world.
yeah, I mean, I think her dad probably knew that his girls were doing things and not being honest. I mean, here's the thing, and I actually like wrote this down. I Because I made notes when I was watching. Um, where is it? Oh, she admits in the beginning compulsive lying disorder, that she struggled in her life with the lying problem, but she explains that lying a lot. She explains that it was that she lied a lot to her parents.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the news flash. Her parents didn't want to hear the things that she was doing, so she would lie about it. But we're not morons. Parents are not idiots. We know when we're being lied to. Her dad knew she was lying to him. I'll put money on it. She just, she didn't want to hear the lecture and she didn't want to see the disappointment in his face.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, no matter what they tell you in the books about just you're disappointing your parents and blah blah blah. I mean, at some point in your life, you're gonna say something to your parent that's disappointing.
Yeah, I
Even
mean,
even though my children's lives are their lives, I mean, obviously parents have hopes and dreams for the children. So if your child comes to you and what they tell you is not what you had for their hopes and dreams for their life, it's going to be disappointing until you accept it, until you get over the initial shock. I think the dad knew that his kids probably lied to him occasionally, but I mean, for whatever reason, she did it all the time. So, hello, hello, what happened? Did you fall
Callie
down?
is no, Kelly is trying to make her presence known, so I apologize for that. You might have to edit that out.
Oh yeah.
No, but what do you think this is? Well, we're both Asian, or you're half Asian, but I think it's a little bit of a culture thing, personally.
Yeah. I
Um,
definitely think that for her it was cultural. And I see this a lot, where the parents come to another country that they want to give their kids a different life than they had, or they want to give them a better life than they had, and they work really hard. A lot of immigrant children have seen their parents own restaurants, work at like blue collar jobs, be treated poorly, and they want their kids to go to university and become doctors and lawyers
mhm.
and attorneys and have really high paying jobs so that they can have that respect. And there's this unspoken Asian norm that's like, your kids have to all like be super smart and overachievers. But the thing that people don't think about is you're bringing your children to another country. That means they're going to be raised American with American values, even though you have your cultural norms. Those are your cultural norms you had in your country of origin. They're being raised in America. So they go to school, they see all of their friends and all of their classmates and their teachers and all the people they rub shoulders with Monday through Friday. They have a different set of norms. They have a
Mm-hmm.
different set of cultural values. It's very difficult to expect your children to grow up and be, believe her parents were Vietnamese. I can't remember exactly, but that's what it
I think
seemed to be.
I
And
think
the thing that's or Chinese, and the thing that's so interesting is she's an American person. She's an American. She grew up in the United States of America. She has the cultural norms and the values and the, brain, and the upbringing and the ideology of an American at her
mm-hmm.
age. She works
Yeah.
for an American company. So it's like it's hard when you see this played out because, it's like the realization was, I like my for my mom, it was a lot of like religious values, and she imposed those on us, and we didn't stick to them. They didn't have the same meaning to us that they did to her. And that was really hard for her. She didn't accept that we didn't. And so that was always a disappointment to her.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do see this a lot, and growing up in a religious community and growing up Asian, it's like there's so many cultural norms, that
Yeah.
it seems unfair. It's like, do you want your kids to be American or do you want them to not be
Right.
American?
Yeah, because you moved here, right? Because, well, I
Yeah.
guess they moved here for certain reasons, but not others.
Right.
But yeah, I know, with my mom, we didn't talk about a lot of intimate things. So I totally believe is an Asian thing. Uh,
Yeah.
and so anyway, so I mean, because she's 32, Connie is 32, and she's the way, if you were just to read this without knowing how old she is, you would think she was 22,
Right.
with
And
how
that's
she,
the other thing is I felt like at the end thinking back about how she acted very immaturely when
hmm
she was dating, when she met him, even the beginning of the relationship, she was very immature about, even at the end when she's joking, she's very unemotional in her joking, like, don't, you know, uh, you know, almost she she tended to be like very negative. He would like joke with her lightheartedly, and she would be very negative, like, you know, I don't need you when she's
hmm
putting the suitcase up on the plane. I don't need you. I can take care of myself. I
yeah,
know she's joking and all that, but it's like it was like she wanted to prove that she didn't need somebody to do those things,
yeah.
to
Again,
help
it's her,
her, to
it's her issue with being vulnerable.
her defense mechanism.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it's day 69. It's 9 days until their departure. Their flight is canceled once again. The airline starts announcing through the embassy that they had government-sponsored flights and there are 3 seats left. So Connie and Matt spend thousands of dollars to buy their seats. So now they're at their last rental. Her mom tells Connie she has to tell her dad. So Connie starts practicing what she is going to say and the little white lies she's going to tell, such as knowing Matt for a while before going on this trip and not that this was their third date. Matt is telling her that her dad will read the articles and find out the truth. Connie asks Matt if he's ever lied to his parents. He admits he has, but not about everything. Connie admits she pretty much lies about everything to her parents, or at least to her dad. She says she lies to her dad because he tries to restrict her. She calls her dad and tells him one of the group of friends is a guy. And her dad actually lectures her about more about that their relationship has gone public, and he lectures her about what to say to the public. And he does chastise her for going on this trip with a guy that she might not really know. Connie does not tell her father that she is there alone with a guy, but she continues to say she is with a group of friends and he's one of them. She thought her dad's reaction would be worse, but instead of feeling relief, she is now worried her dad will look into it more and read everything about what's going on in Costa Rica. So now it's day 78, one day until departure. Matt vlogs as usual. He says Connie had been distant the last few days, and he can't tell if it's because they are leaving or if he did something. He doesn't know what to make of it. Connie's father sends her an article that says the internet never forgets in all caps. Matt asks Connie if she's changed on this trip, and she says she was more vulnerable than she's comfortable with. She said her guard went back up after, during the past few days. So in the last few days, her guard went back up. She's giggly and uncomfortable while telling him that she doesn't want to get her hopes up. So she's kind of being coy, right, about how she's
Yeah.
talking to him. She says she feels pressure from everyone asking them what's next. Matt responds by telling her to just live in the moment. So departure day, people recognize them at the airport and they wish Connie and Matt well. And Connie does not really like the attention. The flight from Costa Rica to Houston is 3 hours and 27 minutes. Imagine like being that close. You know, it's really not, Costa Rica is really not that far, but they
No,
couldn't get
it's
out of there
not.
that entire time. And they get something to eat, and Connie is excited to have potato salad, which I thought was cute. Like, if you were in a foreign country, what do you think you would miss getting back? Because I thought it was
Um,
like a real reaction. Like, there was probably something like Starburst or something that I didn't have for 3 months.
well, I can tell you that I when I was in college, I lived outside of the United States for 2 school years, and so from August to June. And the second school year that I was in Spain, I came home for my mom's wedding, and when I went back to Spain, I took 20 Taco Bell bean burritos wrapped very carefully with lots and lots of hot sauce. And then we warmed up those bean burritos when I got back. Remember, like, you fly the what, 5, 6 hours, 5 hours to New York, wait 4 hours, then fly another 6 hours to Heathrow or whatever to Madrid,
Hmm.
7 hours to Madrid, wait another 2, 3 hours, then fly from Madrid to Valencia. I mean, it was like a day and a half of travel. It wasn't
Yeah.
like So these bean burritos were like zombies by the time we got there. But we ate them and licked the paper that the bean burritos were on. I mean, it was like crack. So apparently Taco Bell wins.
Taco Bell. We're back to Taco Bell. You gotta love Taco
Crunch
Bell.
Crunch Wrap
Crunch Wrap
Supreme,
Supreme.
bitches.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, she's excited to have potato salad, which I thought was really cute. She asks Matt what the date of their anniversary is, and he asks for clarification by asking first date or when we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And Connie says
Aw.
boyfriend and girlfriend, but she says he never really asked her, right? He just announced it in one of their interviews when they were asked if they were boyfriend and girlfriend. He said yes, but they never really discussed it. So he asked he so she so he asks her then, right then and there, will you be my girlfriend? And she playfully says no at first, and then she says fine. um in the documentary, they finally sit together on the couch at the end, and this is where you find out that they are still together. They moved in together 1 month after coming home, and 8 months after that they celebrate their 1 year anniversary, and they got a French bulldog together named Banks. And as of April
Aw.
20th 2023, Matt and Connie are still together. I have to say, so he has a man bun, right? In this, it's like shaved on the side,
Yeah.
and on the top he wears a man bun, and she threatens to cut it off several times during quarantine. But I saw a picture of him online with like a regular haircut, and I'm like, you need to get that man bun back. He looked good.
Really?
Yeah, I thought so. But
I am not a fan of the man bun. I gotta
I think
say,
depending on
if you
oh
are a dude, I'm. wait, let me just
Jason
say,
Mimosa?
it depends on if you're Jason Momoa or not. If you're Jason Momoa and you have a man bun, I'm gonna give you a hard pass. I mean, I'm gonna give you a pass. Like, I'm gonna be like, okay, I can do the man bun, but on anyone else, I'm not a fan of the man bun. I just am
Yeah.
not.
Oh, well, I thought he was.
Including Matt, I was not a fan of his man bun.
Oh,
I
I
don't know
thought he
what
gave
was
him.
going on with his haircut.
Well, it was a
That was
quarantine
annoying.
haircut. But
Right. I
anyway.
will say I will say that her inability to be vulnerable at the beginning of the documentary changed so much, cuz like at the end where she says, "I don't need you." He responds to her and says, "You just want me." And so I
Aw,
like that while she
that's really
couldn't
cute. I didn't
be
miss. I didn't.
yeah, she couldn't be vulnerable, um, and she was even in her playfulness, she would be kind of rigid. He
Hmm.
was the more playful one and brought out that side where he would say something like that and then make her smile. So I really like that because it's so interesting, she spent all this time lying to her parents, and I'll guarantee you that in their relationship, she's probably the rigid one, like her father.
Hmm.
And if they stay together, and make a future life together, I mean, I'll guarantee you that if they have children, she'll also probably be the one who's the heavy, like her father. It's so
Yeah.
interesting the things that, like, maybe, a lot of times the things that we don't like about our parents, or the things that we really rebelled against, are the things that we actually are more like them,
Right. Right. Well, no.
So that's
But or you could
interesting.
go the other way, right? You could feel like this happened to
Right.
me, and I don't want to have my turn. But Mike, so I have a question for you. With
Hmm.
regard to the publicity that they had, would you like? How would you feel about that? Because I could.
Well,
She was not comfortable with it, but he was.
yeah,
He vlogged for like he was an influencer,
right.
so he
Well,
loved all
I
that attention.
agree. I agree with her. If I had seen that travel video on YouTube that he had, I don't know what was it called, something Matt,
Movie Matt.
movie Matt, I would have been like, "Meow." I would have been like, nope, nope, can't do that. Sorry, movie Matt's gonna keep moving down the road. I mean, that would have been like she said,
No,
if I had seen that, I would not
she
have
wouldn't have
gone
gone.
on the
Yeah.
hinge date. I don't blame her. But I will say that, like, at the point where they were in the relationship and the people interview and all that, I mean, at my age, I wouldn't care. At 32, I would have cared because I just lied to everybody in my family and told them I was on a mission trip saving starving refugees. And really, I'm like jumping off of like abandoned, ships and wearing butt floss and like getting too much of a suntan. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it depends. Yeah, but if they were to ask me today, I'd be like, "You want to do a people interview with me? Holy crap! Like,
Oh yeah. Well, because you
sign me
love an
up."
audience.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're totally different. So yeah, the question is not really. I know the answer because
What
you
about
like an
you?
audience. I'm just trying to picture what the difference would be, how I would feel as far as someone filming me and putting me out there. And also, they may not have put it in the documentary, but I don't know if he asked her, if he could put her on his vlog and do the whole longest third date with Connie. I mean, I don't know if he asked her. But I'm just trying to feel out whether him doing something like that here at home versus being stuck somewhere exotic like that would change how I feel. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of in this adventure. You're
Yeah.
just cut off from everyone. You're in these
Yeah.
gorgeous places. Um, and maybe you
It's no
feel,
longer your adventure. It's now everyone knows your story.
yeah. And maybe you feel like, I might find it a little bit more acceptable, less intimidating or less annoying if you're out there and you are kind of closed off. So it is going out right into the stratosphere for everybody to see, but you're kind of isolated from it. So maybe it's not the same effect as if it was going on while you were here and you're walking down the street. I mean, they did get that when they came back, but while they were going through it and he was vlogging it, she's they're isolated, right? So maybe I would have been
Right.
kind of more okay with it, but really, I mean, it was a violation of her privacy, because I don't know if he asked her if he could do that, but anyway.
I also think that you can tell, especially like at the end, she really, really likes him and she is worried when she talks about her dad. You realize she's worried her dad's going to hate Matt. She's not so much worried that her dad is going to be mad at her. She wants her dad to like this guy that she's fallen for through
Yeah,
this very strange circumstance, because in order for Matt to be a part of her life going forward and for that to blend in seamlessly, that means her dad's going to also have to like Matt. And it
yeah.
sounds to me Connie's issues were more like her own self-acceptance, and once she was able to accept herself, she was more able to accept Matt and also accept cuz like I don't know if you remember that scene where Matt's eating the like half
The
developed duck
egg.
embryos, the balut egg with the
Oh
dad.
my God, he's
He's
like, it
such a
tastes better than it looks.
trooper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got a mouthful of feathers and beak and God knows what else. I mean, I have seen those eating shows where they're eating that stuff and people are like retching, and
Yeah.
he's not even faced. He got a mouthful of duck embryo and he's like, well, it tastes better than it looks. And the dad's laughing. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I'm sorry.
That
If
reminds
I
me,
was
that
Matt,
seems
I'd be like, again, here's the line I am not willing to cross over. The duck
oh
embryos are
really,
not
it
coming
seems
into my mouth.
for some reason it reminds me, well, I think it's something Gabe would do, or it would be how Gabe would react. No, is that an
Oh, yeah,
accurate
he
assessment?
totally
Yeah,
yeah,
I
he
feel like Gabe
totally
would
and you
just
know what's funny is there's a whole list of, like, Korean food that Gabe had never tried and was
well,
not a fan
sure.
of when we
Mhm.
met, that he actually enjoys eating now.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I'm sure. I went out with somebody a long time ago that the first time he tried sushi, he could not get over the seaweed, the nori around it. He could not get,
Yeah.
and then he ended up eating more exotic things than me. Like, I can't eat uni. He loved uni. Ugh. Um, but yeah, so you can acquire taste, but I just imagine Gabe going, well, it tastes better than it looks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and I also love the iguana at the end. That was
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
That was
so
very, very cool. Well, if you guys run into this or you have a couple hours free, you should pull this up and watch it. The Longest Third Date.
yeah, if nothing else, just for the scenery, the places that they
Oh,
stayed were
yeah.
really incredible. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Made me want to. Oh, and I just have to also shout out, what the hell did he do with that car? That was the craziest I'm like, what person? I was all, only a man would look at that road and go, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah, I
take
get
this
it.
car down that, cause like legit, Cheryl, I was like, what kind of holy hell has he done to that car?
Oh my God, I know.
And Connie's like, this can be really expensive. I'm all, who cares about expensive? You can't even get the thing on. I mean, it was like on two separate planes. I mean, it
Yeah,
was so crazy.
yeah, but and don't you? And that's the other thing. Don't you think your reaction might be tempered by the fact that you're being filmed? Because she was really a trooper about them being
Oh,
half off the
yeah. That
damn road.
I thought the car was like submerged in the ocean and they were going to drown. I mean, I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, yeah, the two tires were off the road into some ditch or something. But
Yeah,
anyway,
if that
well,
makes sense.
yeah, but like, you would think it'd be for younger people, but I think I enjoyed it. because it was just nice to look back at, or to look at two young, attractive people having this adventure. And yeah, not everybody's going to have the same. If that were to happen to them, they would not be eating, as well as they were. But
Yeah.
yeah, it
I
was just
also
fun.
felt like I felt like it kind of also romanticized the pandemic because remember, a lot of people's story was I woke up, rolled over in bed, and my partner was dead. Or
Yeah.
the other story was we couldn't buy any groceries because mom and dad both got laid off from their jobs because they shut down all of the Walmarts around the country or whatever. And so again, it wasn't a story, people were dying, people were losing their jobs, people didn't have money. So again, it was like not, it was there was a small percentage of people that could identify with, oh, and feel like this was a great, experience. Whereas
Hmm. Yeah,
that
for
wasn't
sure.
that wasn't I feel like that wasn't like and also, I remember reading a thing saying that this high number of people got a divorce during the pandemic
Oh,
because
yeah.
everyone was trapped indoors with each other. And I was like, well, if you're not going to die from coronavirus, you're going to die because your spouse is going to go crazy and kill you. Because like people were like, I realized that I hated my spouse and I couldn't wait to get away from them. And then they were like packing up their shit and running away in the middle of the night because like I've been on quarantine lockdown with this person for a year and a half and I can't stand them.
Yep, yep. It was not good for some people, but it worked out for Kanye and Matt.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I just couldn't help thinking like I hope they make a documentary with some of the other kinds of relationships and what happened.
Oh, I'm sure there's something out there if we look for it.
We should look for it. I really
Yeah.
would love to see in real time being filmed with all of the like, icky parts too a marriage completely unraveling during the pandemic. So, listeners, if you know of a show, a documentary, or a movie, or something out there that has this, please send it our way because I want to see it. I am dying to see like the death of a marriage during a pandemic.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh boy.
Anyway, even though we didn't cover murder today, you know what's a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
Oh man, that's right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day.